All right, guys, what's going on? Hope everybody's out there staying high speed and motivated and accomplishing their goals, whatever they may be. This is a continuation video where we are watching together the U.S. Army Ranger School documentary series, The Creed. It's a new series that they've been releasing one episode per week with, and I think it's going to be a 4-episode in total series. And this series covers everything there is to know about Ranger School, all the different phases, and even RTAC, which is a pre-ranger down at Fort Benning run by the National Guard. This episode that we're going to be watching together is actually the 3rd episode of that series. It's the 4th video that I've made of it because the last video was so long, I broke it up into 2 parts. And they actually broke it up into 2 parts too, so it actually worked out. But for this video, what I've done is I've edited their episode, which is all about mountain phase, by the way. And I've tried to edit it in a way where it's just saving us a little time because the episode itself is, I think, almost 50 minutes long. All right, so I got it down to about 23.5 minutes. So there is going to be a lot of content that is not shown that's from the actual video itself. I'm just giving you that warning right now, but I think it's all the most important parts, all right? And I try to keep everything in line so that it all plays out like a story. And what's really cool is, I think what they did a good job with this episode is that it does get into a lot of storytelling. A lot of the Rangers give their accounts of what they experience in mountain phase. A lot of them are pretty funny too. And if you have ever talked to anybody who's been to Ranger School and they talk about mountain phase, there are a lot of the same stories that you might have already heard in the past. So this is like, it's pretty good to hear it from the horse's mouth per se, right? And to be able to see it in action. And it's recent. This is recent footage, right? So, and if you've already been to Ranger School, you're going to see this and you're like, oh wow, this is like flashbacks, you know, I'm telling you. Because for me, it was really just taking a trip down memory lane, even though, to be honest, it's really hard to remember a lot of things about mountain phase, because mountain phase is known to be the hardest phase of Ranger School, but it's also, like, for some reason, the best phase of Ranger School. It's the hardest, but it's also where I think you learn the most and you get the most out of what Ranger School is. Like the essential part of what you learn from Ranger School, I think, happens and is ingrained in you at mountain phase. That's what I think. So we're about to go ahead and watch the video. Before we do, make sure, if you haven't done so already, to subscribe to this channel, because I looked recently and only about 25% of people that are watching my videos are actually subscribed, okay? So do me a favor, if you're already watching the videos, just hit that subscribe button, because it really does help the channel a lot and I really would appreciate it. That, and like and comment with what you think about this video. If you have a story yourself that you want to put out there into the ether and share with people about mountain phase or with Ranger School in general, or just, if you wanted to leave a comment with something you saw on the video. It doesn't really matter. Just like and comment, all right? Do that for me. So again, this is mountain phase. The Ranger students who haven't recycled have been in Ranger School for about 3 weeks now, but there's a pretty decent chunk, I want to say 2/3 of the total student population in this video of mountain phase are actually recycled, okay? So they've been in Ranger School even longer, and we'll talk about all that sort of stuff as the video plays out. But without further ado, I think it's time we go ahead and get into it.
The phase that poses the greatest challenge for any leader is the mountain phase. The steepness of the terrain, the cold weather conditions, the load you're carrying in your rucksack gets a little bit heavier, limited sleep, limited food. It is about making young leaders capable to do the things that our Army is going to ask them to do in combat.
The beginning portion of mountains was fun, like lowers, that's what they call it, like learning the mountaineering techniques. The first day you get to rappel off the tower, and that's just, it's always fun to rappel.
Today is really the introduction to mountaineering techniques for the Ranger students, and it really essentially is created to show them the basics on how to tie knots, how to use the equipment that they currently have.
The students are getting their basic introduction to military mountaineering. So over the course of today, the students have learned about basic rappels, how to belay.
Hopefully they're having a little bit of fun, but mindsets vary from person to person, but for the most part, they're just looking, like I said, looking forward to the next meal, trying to just get by these next few days, just kind of surviving.
We started off the day with our knots test, And then today we build on those types of things, such as the knots, simple raising, complex fixed ropes, bridging. So we went over to the Etowah over there when they got some exercise on actually incorporating some of the knots and transporting both personnel and equipment across that linear danger area of the river there.
And then they'll do, we call upper mountaineering at Mount Yonah, where they'll conduct a 1.8 mile foot march. And this really, tests the mental aptitude of the Ranger student to see if they possess the physical and mental stamina necessary to pass the Mountain Phaser Ranger School. And then up there, they'll do ballast and lead climb. And again, that goes back to building the confidence of the Ranger student.
You're getting to climb mountains and actually do lead climbing, things I've never done before. It was thrilling to rappel 200 feet. That was awesome.
The days.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. The first few days of Mountain Phase is all dedicated to learning mountaineering techniques. So you do your lowers and your uppers, right? They explain that to you. So it's just a couple days of each. You'll do rappelling, and then you'll do rappelling off the rappel tower and some small cliffs, and you'll learn knots and things like that. And then you'll go up to uppers, where you'll hike Mount Yonah, which is a pretty decent hike. I think that's well known. It is a pretty tough hike. You get out there, you stay there for a couple days, and while you're out there, you'll do some pretty intense rappelling out there, like they showed. You even do a night op rappel, where you'll rappel down that cliff face under nods, and it's pretty sketchy. I always think, especially when you're up there at uppers, it's amazing to me with the things that you do that Ranger students don't die there more often, or at least have some tragic accident out there, just because it is so dangerous, and you're just traversing some serious cliff faces where if you just made one misstep, one small move, and you're just done. You're gone. So yeah, I remember mountains. Uppers was fun. I would say it was fun. If you ever get a chance to go to, I'll put a plug in for this school. If you ever get a chance to go to the Army Military Mountaineer course up in Vermont, definitely go, because you learn so much more than you would ever learn with mountaineering techniques than you do at Ranger School. They just kind of give you the basics at Ranger School so you can sort of survive, right? And it's kind of brain dumped anyway. A lot of Rangers will say it's sort of a waste of time because you learn it and then you kind of forget it anyway because you're just so messed up. But if you ever get a chance to go to Army Military Mountaineering course, you definitely should go, because that course is legit. All right, let's keep going.
They're packed. Classroom instruction in the morning, followed by demonstrations and practical exercises. The instructors have a very short window to cover a lot of ground, and if the students are not careful, they may miss a key detail that could be the difference between their success or failure in the remote Appalachian Mountains. After every exercise, the students are evaluating their performance, identifying weaknesses, and making adjustments. As the saying goes, master the small things, and the big things will fall into place.
Today, the students are learning the troop leading procedures.
What's going to happen is we're going to get a Frago class. We're probably going to do a Frago PE, which will be quick, fast, and in a hurry.
This is one of the only days they get for bay planning. The rest of their planning and preparation for their missions will be done out in the field during the FTX. So it's significant because they get these nice terrain models, they get the nice whiteboards out here, and they have a ton of time to plan and prepare and set them on the right foot starting out on the FTX so they can continue that momentum for a good FTX.
Today was the first day of the 10-day FTX split.
Okay, real quick. So that was just a few days snapshot of doing some classroom instruction, doing some field instruction, and just getting some practice reps in. Okay, so when you stay at mountains, you're actually staying in some pretty nice barracks. I mean, for Ranger School anyway, they're pretty nice barracks. It's like the nicest barracks you'll get while you're at Ranger School. And you're staying right next to a small little airstrip, and you'll go and do your exercises right outside by that airstrip, which is where you step off for your FTX as well. And then while you're at the barracks and you're not out in the field for the 10 days, right? You actually get to eat at the chow hall for breakfast, and it's the most food you will have ever eaten for breakfast, or at least it feels that way. They're just they're just pumping calories into you. They only give you like 5 minutes to eat, so you're just sitting there scarfing everything in, but they give you a ton of food. And Mountain Phase is where the infamous, I think it's okay to say this still, but the Chow Nazi happens. That's like where there's a guy that's been dedicated to keep time for all the teams that are coming in, and make sure that you're only there for 5 minutes. And really they do that because there's only so many chairs at the chow hall at any given time, and people need to flow through quickly, right? But yeah, you only get 5 minutes. You gotta scarf your face, but it's like you get so much food. They really do replenish the calories for you during Mountain Phase. But then you go out and you do your FTX. It's 10 days long, and they divide it into 2 5-day portions. So you get 1 whole day to plan for your first 5 days, and that's what we just saw there. So now we're getting into them actually going out to the field for 5 days.
Up in 5-day increments. We de-trucked about a click down over here.
You came right out of where we are now, and then you went straight up that mountain right away.
I saw it break some people. Like, it was really tough for me. And my buddy Sam had the tripod and the barrel connected to him, and I'm just like, holy crap. But like every time I'm trying to like give him a boost or something along those lines, and he's too proud to let me touch him. But like it was pretty cool just to like test yourself that way in such a like tough environment.
Like you feel like you're going up, and then you see a clearing, and the guy in front of you taps their foot. It's like, all right, we're at checkpoint 4. We're almost to the security hall. And then you get to like a fake summit. Like you hit it, and you look around, and it's just a flat ground for like 50 meters, and then you go right back up. Like, how am I still going up? Like my ears have popped twice because of elevation.
In addition to the physical rigors of climbing up mountains, and moving 15 kilometers every day on, 2 to 3 hours of sleep. So the physical rigors of Ranger School really start to set in here, in addition to the cerebral component of platoon operations.
That guy says cerebral. But anyway, yeah, and it's true. Like, it just smokes the shit out of you in Mountain Phase. And if you're lucky enough to go during the winter, then a lot of the days, those mountains are going to be covered in feet of snow, and you're just going to be trudging through the snow. I think these guys are winter rangers technically, but I think it's like earlier on in the winter because they do complain about the cold a lot, which is fair because it still gets cold even if there's not snow, right? But if you're fortunate enough to go during the winter when it's snowing, it's a whole different story, and it's even worse. So just picture that. Those are sector stakes that the recon team put out for the gun team. Okay, so they stuck them out there. The leader of the recon team stuck those stakes there so that they know their sectors of fire. The guns, the gunner. Okay, I'm just telling you for those guys that might not know. I'm sure somebody's like, what are these sticks about? And they have tape on it, loom tape on there like that, so when you're doing missions at night, they can still be seen. Sectors of fire are important so you don't commit any fratricide, okay? So the machine gun team is on one angle, and then you have the assault team that's gonna come from another angle, one side or the other, and they're gonna come in and assault while the machine gun is laying down fire, right? So those sector stakes make sure that fratricide doesn't happen, or at least it helps. Okay, I'm done explaining that. Just for those of you guys that might not know.
completed the ambush. It was like a mission to get our MREs back because we forgot to put them on the Lima 1 report. We didn't request them the night before, so we had to like seize the vehicles and get our MREs back from the vehicles.
We had pushed over across that little ravine. After every mission you do, regardless of the mission, typically, right, you'll stop, you'll go back to an ORP location or something like that. You'll stop and you'll do an after action report with the RI, and they're going to tell you how you did. Let's see how these guys did. And we found a good spot for the support by fire. So it was actually facing down the long axis of the road. So the enemy's approach, we can shoot them head on. All right. Objective being that we disable those vehicles as they're slowing down to approach that turn, not letting them into the turn. So once we hit that claymore on those vehicles and we disable them, they're potentially still going to roll, right? And now they're in our kill zone. You guys can all then mass your fires on them as well as support by fire, hit targets opportunity and such, and then they are there and you're already set. You have your paths that each individual soldier is going to take down onto the objective. There was minor confusion and pretty good control, all right? So keep that up, do it better, but keep it up, okay? So that sounded pretty good, right? But they're always going to give you things, there's always going to be room to improve, right? And so that was kind of why there were still some things that the RI there was trying to tell to the students, hey, look, you did good here, you did good here, but there's still these things that you could be doing. I want to see you do it this way the next time. But I think whoever was in leadership position on that patrol got their go, right away, got their go, which means they're pretty happy for the next 10 days. They just got to be good teammates now.
After a positive after-action review, spirits are high, but the day is far from over. They are less than halfway through their patrol, and night is on their heels. Under the cover of darkness,
So nighttime in mountains that's when everything goes to shit. You know, it's always bad. It's always a shit show. This is when it's very dangerous, all right? You've heard things, we're gonna get into it here, but you've heard Rangers talk about droning and things of that nature. And I don't know, I think they do a really good job kind of talking about those sorts of things in this episode. So I'm gonna shut up and we're gonna keep going.
this will be an arduous movement.
I remember the RI coming up to me specifically. It's pitch black before the assault, and he kind of whispers in my ear. He's like, "Are you the Assault 2 squad leader?" "Yeah, roger that, Sergeant. That's me." It's like, all right, what I'm looking for specifically is control of your element and violence of action. Two things. All I want to see. Like, all right, too easy, roger that. And the first thing that came into my head was the scene from Band of Brothers where they're fighting out of that trench and they're fighting uphill because they got shelled, and it was Dick Winters running up and down that line just screaming at his guys like, "Come on, get your guns up, keep pushing, fire," like, and it was awesome. It was motivating. Like, if I would have been on that gun line with him in my ear, that's what I was thinking of in the back of my mind. When they initiated, that's what I did. Like, I got up out of the prone and I just started running the line and just screaming at people at the top of my lungs so that they could hear me through all the gunfire. One of my saws went down, so I like turned around and I gunned it towards him. I was like, "Get that saw up, come on." Like, I told somebody to put all the surrounding M4s on burst and then fully auto. Like, I shot down there a couple times, just a massacre of fires. When it came time for bounding, I made sure that everybody was online. I gave my team leaders like a little bit of leeway with it, but like I commanded it, keep that control. Everybody was online. It was perfect successive bounding.
Right side bound, push more right so we can get left in here. No one cleared him. No one saw him.
Just like, listen, you lost all control of your element. Your violence of action after the first like 10 seconds was miserable. And he started just, it hurt. It hurt what he had to say. because I thought it was the complete opposite. That one got me poopy face a little bit.
I am the king droner, right? Basically, droning is when you are halfway in between limbo of being asleep and being awake. So you're still walking, but you're definitely not there, like able to make a cognitive decision just because you're that tired. On one of our long movements, so on the right-hand side, there was a sheer cliff that I almost walked off like 2 or 3 times. And then on the left side, there was it was a big incline. And I remember, I guess at some point I took a left and I began to walk up this slope. And I made it far before I finally woke up in a panic and I'm like, oh my God, I'm alone. I thought I had walked off from everyone. I was like, I'm gonna get SOR'd. I'm panicking. I'm like, where is everybody? And I turn around and I look at the road and there's like 10 or 12 dudes that are just staring at me. I can see their NVGs and they're just following me, like thinking to themselves probably like, what the hell is this dude doing? And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, there's 12 people down there and they just watched me walk up a hill off the road and not a single one was gonna be like, hey asshole, you're going the wrong way. You wanna come back down to the road?
I love that they're keeping it real like that. So I've had those exact things happen when I was there. And first, I almost fell off a cliff. And actually, I had the guy behind me somehow caught it before I did. And he grabbed me, and I literally had like a foot over it. And when I looked down and my foot was over the cliff, he grabbed me and pulled me back in. And I remember that. And that was a super close call, right? And then also, I've there's multiple experiences with droning during mountain phase, but I remember one specifically where we were on the road, because a lot of times during the night you can move the majority of the march through the road, right? Because it's just like impossible to do it any other way. That I guess I missed the way the road curved and I kept going straight and I kept going into the woods until I literally just ran into a tree. Like I bonked off a tree. And then I looked back, I'm like, oh shit, the patrol's over there. So I had to run back over there and catch up with my guys. And I thought the same thing, like how come nobody told me that was happening? But the fact is that everybody is droning, so that they're already having a hard enough time like dealing with themselves and what they're going through. They don't even see what's going on in front of you, most likely with other rangers, right? So yeah, but so you see how they're looking. I like that they did it through the nods with the camera, because that really does show you some good perspective of what you see out there. I mean, you can barely even see what's going on the screen. Imagine that's how you're seeing there. You're super tired, calorie depleted. You don't really know what's going on, and you're supposed to somehow conduct an assault or be in charge of an assault, right? With a whole platoon worth of tired and hungry rangers. So it's like, it's almost impossible. I don't think, it's very rare that somebody gets their go at night. I think it might even just be rigged. I don't know. But all the operations during night are always a shit show, and everybody's just trying to like survive. That's just the reality of it.
Sometimes I would close my eyes, open them back up, and I'd be in another place than I thought I was. So that happened to me a few times on night marches. I'd be walking, and I'd blink, and then I'd be in like another formation with the wrong people, and I'd be like, where? So I'd have to hustle back up or like slow down even sometimes. I somehow got ahead of my formation sometimes.
As far as establishing the patrol base, it feels a lot like herding cats. Getting everybody on the same page to just make a triangle in the dark is always an extraordinarily difficult task.
Ranger has a really hard time doing geometry in the woods at night. So just physically making a triangle, staying tactical, remaining quiet, using hand and arm signals, but essentially leader delegation from the platoon level down to the squad level. And then those squad leaders learning how to utilize their team leaders in order to control the movement of their troops without breaking the noise and light discipline, still remaining tactical, providing security, and not violating the principles of patrolling. So
we got everything set up for the patrol base, and then finally I was like, all right, bed down. We were looking at our clocks. You're getting like 1 hour a night some nights, and we're all looking at the sky. It's just pouring rain. We're like, all right, like how are we gonna manage this? So next thing you know, me and my buddy are like putting our sleeping mats down, getting our poncho or like a tarp over us, and putting on garbage bags over our bodies just to like try to stay warm and get as close to each other as possible, and just try to battle through the night.
We're on the objective, we're assaulting through the objective, we're bounding, we're moving through the objective, and I got my battle buddy to the right, and then I would bound and he would bound, and I would bound and he would bound. And then I bounded and I looked over and he didn't bound. So I bounded again. I looked back and I'm wondering where he's at. And then we got to the LOA and I'm like, oh man, we lost one. And maybe the RIs, notionally wounded him. So we do the LOA, and then we get together on the road to go find our equipment, do accountability. And they're like, "Where's this Ranger at?" So I start yelling his name, and I think to myself, well, now I got to save my battle buddy. I said, "He went to go to the bathroom." And I run down to the side, and I start yelling his name, and he wakes up. As we were bounding, he landed, and he fell right to sleep. And as he fell asleep, I continued bounding, continued the mission, right? And then once the mission was over, I had to go help my battle buddy out, right? And like I said, nobody makes it through Ranger School alone.
Yeah, it's totally true. I say that all the time. I really like this episode because it brings up a lot of things I say all the time. But nobody earns their tab by themselves. Absolutely true. And in that case, he covered for his Ranger buddy who was just not staying awake no matter what, and got him through. But that, obviously he must have done good on Piers for that because he definitely hooked him up. Yeah. Do you guys? What do you guys think? Do you have like an experience yourself? I know there's some of you out there that have already been to Ranger School. Do you have an experience yourself where if it wasn't for another Ranger that you were with, you may not have got your tab? I want to know if there's something that you guys have out there. Drop in the comments.
That rainstorm that we got hit with was pretty gnarly. It was bad. We felt good just getting into our sleeping bags. It was real quick because it started pouring on us, so we got into our sleeping bags. We covered up our rucks with our ponchos, and we racked out. But waking up and just a pond that just sucks. Every morning, we're just waking up in a puddle of water, and everything is just soaking wet. So we just got used to it, just kind of suck it up and be wet. But the first one, kind of morale plummeted. They received a new chain of command this morning, and they were given their frago, in which they began their planning process. PL was given 30 minutes to basically read through that frago, gather the information he needed, and then give a warning to his squad leaders and platoon sergeant. The squad leaders and the platoon leader are together in the center, what we call the Tower of Power, and they're beginning their planning process for their mission for today. Generally, the PL is giving out tasking standards, time hacks to the subordinate leaders, and they're kind of utilizing their subordinates to keep priorities of work happening as we're simultaneously planning for this operation. The platoon sergeant is also preparing to receive his resupply this morning, which would be brought in by the incoming RI walk team. And then they'll step off and begin their patrol.
So you guys got a little glimpse there of what PB ops looks like, what patrol-based ops looks like, right? And like the RI was saying, and the student, right, that there is no downtime at all in the field, or really in Ranger School in general, but especially in the field. Just because you're at a patrol base, you might even be there for, maybe somewhere between 6 to 8 hours sometimes, but that doesn't mean you get to just like drop your ruck and chill for that long. Like, there's always going to be security, there's always going to be other priorities of work going on, there's always going to be planning going on, and if you do get a chance to sleep, it's not going to be any more than like 1, maybe 2 hours. If you get 2 hours, you're going to be like, that's going to seem like so much sleep. It's going to be like the Ranger gods have shined upon you and allowed you to close your eyes for a very long period of time for the first time ever. That's how it feels. It's like amazing. But you can't expect anything more than that. But yeah, that's how it is. So these guys have now been out there for, it looked like 9 days. So they're coming up towards the end of the FTX, and they are dog tired. I promise you that. All right, let's see how they do. Real quick, seeing the Blackhawks reminded me of this, and I wanted to ask you guys about this. I never got like, there was like a legend about in Mountain Phase that the pilots would bring like pizzas or McDonald's burgers or something when they would come and pick you up like that. And that never happened for us. And I don't know if that's just like a myth or what. Do you have, if you're watching this now and that happened to you during Ranger School, what did the pilots do for you? I want to know, because I feel like I got gypped with that. Okay, let's keep going.
We're pulling in the wood line behind us.
We as RIs, we don't have to, smoke the Ranger students because the terrain will do it for us. You figure they're going with anywhere from 80 to 120 pound rucks. Add to that the calorie deficit, and again, the terrain adding to how many calories you're using, the lack of sleep, the weather itself beating on you. It really allows the Ranger students to know how much they can handle and if this was the right choice for them.
Finding motivation in times like that is just the fact that you're in Ranger School. You're already in like robot mode, not because you're drowning, not because you're tired. I mean, you were, but sometimes you just had to, just look at the guy in front of you and just put one step in front of the other. That's all it really was.
Hold on, you see that in the background? Here, check this out. There's a guy in the background that just totally eats shit.
You were,
it happens all the time.
Sometimes you just had to,
dude's just falling over.
Just look at the guy in front of you and just put one step in front of the other.
Look behind this guy.
That's all it really was.
Sorry, I just happened to notice that.
My team is a member of Merrill's Marauders Platoon here at 5th Ranger Training Battalion, and we facilitate the effective training of Ranger students as they come through the mountain phase of Ranger School. And what that means is we play the part of a near-peer threat. We train in the same tactics that the Ranger students do, and this allows the Ranger students to see their same tactics applied by the enemy on the battlefield. Therefore, they can get a more realistic view of how the enemy operates out there in the real world. The Ranger instructors, they can't be everywhere at once. As a member of the Op 4, we will sometimes see things, whether it be good or bad, that the student leadership or the student patrol has done or failed to do, and we can relay that to the Ranger instructors throughout various coordinations that we make with them during the day.
Still, one of the worst days of my entire life happened in Ranger School. I was carrying a 240 to the top of the Tennessee Valley Divide. It was about 35 degrees and it was raining. Terrible weather, miserable. Got up to the top, slipped in some mud, banged my face on a 240 and knocked out my front teeth. But I tell the students that when they come in, you're gonna have a bad day. That was my bad day, but you gotta push through it. You gotta rely on your teammates, and that's what we're really teaching, right? This is a leadership school. We grade on tactics and we teach patrols and platoon level operations, like I've been saying, but we really teach leadership, and really part of that is learning about yourself and pushing through adversity and pushing the limitations of human performance.
After we switched out leadership, basically we're told you need to set up an ambush and go. And so security squad, they're up front, set up a quick ORP and then running in place for security.
I was rushing around trying to actually see the objective in daylight so I could get a general understanding of where I was going to set this ambush. But it seemed like everybody was just dragging ass. Like it was, I had the leader's legs, and so luckily I had really good squad leaders that also had the leader's legs that were trying to push people along in that same direction. But I remember getting everything set up, all my machine guns in place, the assault line in place, and I'm going around doing my final spot checks of what's going on, and I come around and there's just little things like people are dead asleep on the assault line, everybody's toast. It's special. And I remember coming back to the assault line at one point, and I was about a few bounds behind where the actual assault line was, and I found a guy just dead asleep in a pit, and it was one of the guys from my squad, and he was just completely lost, didn't know where he was, and I grabbed him by the scruff and got him back up to the assault line. I'm like, you almost shot everybody on this ambush. So I luckily got everybody up, started the ambush, and it went as well as it could.
We bounded through the objective. We hit our limit of advance.
Oriented in the direction of travel.
And another vehicle, like an enemy QRF, I guess, comes flying down the road. And it was on my side. Like, all right, real quick, think about what you're gonna do. Get my guys online. I put like a 320 and an AT4 up there real quick. Shot the vehicle down, did a vehicle clearance. And that was it. That was my second look as the assault squad leader. When I found out that I was a no-go for patrols, it's like anything else, like your heart just sinks, your heart breaks. And I'm not an emotional guy whatsoever. You can ask anybody. And it was pretty quick that I became, emotionally compromised. Like just from that one phone call, the second I heard my wife's voice, it was over. That phone call lasted about 90 seconds. Then I had to say, hey, I'm a no-go. I'm gonna have to do mountains again. It's gonna be 6 weeks. So my new graduation date is now in June, not April. I'll call you when I can. And watching everybody else jump on that phone call and give high fives and hugs. And they were so excited that they were, tearing up. And you could only imagine what their family member on the other end of the phone was saying, but that one hurt big time.
That sucks.
You're off, Ranger.
So that was it. Next episode is going to be Florida phase. So I don't know about you guys. I thought they did a really good job kind of with all the storytelling, kind of portraying what the experience of mountain phase is like at Ranger School. I think a lot of those stories are very congruent with not only my own experience, but the experience of other Ranger School students that have gone through the school, whether they pass or not. The stories that they tell all sound the same. And even, there's a lot of things that they don't show. They can only show so much in this series, right? These episodes are 45 minutes long. That's already really long. There's so much more to Ranger School, even with the other episodes we've watched, where you don't really get, obviously, anywhere near the full experience with these episodes. But I still think the overall feel of what you would experience at Mountain Phase was conveyed very well there. And if you want to go see the full episode, I definitely think you should. It's on the U.S. Army's official YouTube channel. Definitely go watch it, because there's, I took off 25 minutes of their video to condense it to what we just watched. Try to keep all the important parts, but there's a lot more context in there as well. So now I just want to know what you guys think. I know based on the comments from the other videos that I've dropped, the other episodes that we've watched so far together, I know there's some older people that have been to Ranger School, some back in the 80s even, and I know there's some that are looking forward to going to Ranger School or are at least interested in going to Ranger School, haven't gone yet, young soldiers. I want to know what you think, the older population, do you think that this looks like the Ranger School that you remember? Does this look like what you went through back in the day? If so, how so? And if not, how so? And then for the younger population, is this looking like what you had in mind when you hear the stories about Ranger School, when you read up on it, when you've seen any other kind of content, when you listen to me talk about it on other videos that I've posted? Is this kind of what, is this hitting the mark of what you expected? All right, I'm just curious what you think. So you saw at the end there was that one Ranger that didn't get his go, right? He got looked at twice, didn't get his go at least twice, and he's gonna have to recycle mountain phase. And he said his graduation date, his anticipated graduation date, is now 6 months in the future than what they planned for, what their family planned for. And that's why I'm always saying Ranger School is not a 61-day course. That's like the best case scenario, but it's for most Rangers, it doesn't conclude after 61 days. You will most likely recycle at least one phase. That's just the reality of it. So you can't go there thinking, well, I'm just gonna go for a couple months, I'll come right back. You can't plan it like that. You have to go and commit full force to however long you need to be there until you have completed the mission of getting your tab. That's how you have to look at it. That's how your family needs to be prepared to handle it. And it's also how your unit needs to be prepared to handle it, okay? So, it really does. It takes full commitment in order to be successful at Ranger School. All right, we got one more episode left, Florida phase. You saw there was a little snow on the ground there. That's why I think they were in the earlier phases of winter in this one. And when they move on to Florida, it's probably gonna be January, I would think, maybe December. I'm sure we'll see it because they might talk about Christmas Exodus. If the Rangers look fat, that means they got Christmas Exodus and they went home and ate everything they possibly could before they came back to Florida phase. So we'll see on the next episode what happened. But you'd be surprised. It does snow in Florida and it gets cold. I remember it being cold. But besides that, guys, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already, especially if you're already watching my videos. Subscribe, please. Okay, it helps me out a lot. Don't forget to like this video, because if you made it this far, you definitely liked it. And don't forget to comment. I've given you plenty of things to comment about. Stay motivated, stay dedicated, most importantly, stay gritty, and I will see you on the next one.